Hello, my name is Rebecca Blizzard, and this is Module 1 for EDL 853, Special Education for Administration, and this is my introduction. Okay, here's my table of contents. First, we're just going to go over me and my journey. Then I'll go through those questions. We'll talk about the standard before I show you my references. Okay, so first, meet Rebecca Blizzard, that's me. This is my family, my most important priority. Penny's over there on the left. She is a darling 9-year-old who loves to craft a little too much. We've had a lot of slime in the carpet this summer. There's Ollie. He is a 12-year-old gamer. He lives in my house, and he's excited to go to 7th grade next year, which we're in Shawnee Mission in Shawnee, Kansas, and he will go to Trail Ridge. And that's my husband, Wes. He teaches 4th grade in Kansas City, Kansas, but he would love to be able to write and illustrate his own comics full-time. Okay, so my educational timeline. I started off in Shawnee Mission as a student, but then I went to KU and got a degree in early childhood. I loved it. I'm not a very good singer, so I decided to go back to school, got my master's in elementary education, and I decided to, after 16 years of teaching, go ahead and pursue an administration endorsement, just so that I can kind of test my waters as a leader. And in the next couple years, I hope to earn a doctorate in curriculum and development. Okay, so this is a big transition year for me. I am moving from the classroom into an innovative specialist position here in Shawnee Mission, and I will be in a new building. So I taught all 16 years at Westwood View in Westwood, Kansas, which is awesome. And now I'm ready to move on, so I will be in a new building. Here are my professional goals. So in the future, I'm going to be an innovative specialist. This looks different in every building in Shawnee Mission. For me, it's going to be focusing on helping teachers understand the interventions that they need to perform. So in the past, it has been more of a reading teacher position, and we're trying to transition that to be a all-in inclusive position. And in the future, I'd like to be an instructional coach. So hopefully, while I'm working on my doctorate, I will be a coach and then eventually work in the curriculum department. Okay, so what about those questions? Those questions were focused on equity, inclusiveness, and cultural responsiveness. So the first question said, assume that if your school already had an inclusive culture, what would be your role? So I said that my role would be to continue to model people first language, openly discuss issues that are sometimes hot button issues, including bullying, and work towards the acceptance of others. I'm going to create a committee to focus on our building's positive and inclusive school culture to keep that going. Then I'm going to inform the staff that any type of derogatory language, so any type of homophobic, gender bias, racial bias language, not accepted. Hopefully, most teachers know that. Then we're going to move towards a culture of flexible change. So in all areas, we want to be flexible. So not just in our inclusivity, but also in our instruction. So, and our day-to-day practices and procedures, we want to be flexible in all areas. And then I need to remember that sometimes people won't like doing the right thing. Sometimes people won't like me for wanting them to do the right thing. Okay, and so how can I create that culture? So not just my role, what are some things that need to be implemented and put in place? Academic supports for all students. So in my district, we use MTSS, so that multi-tiered system. So not just the tier 1 kiddos, but tier 3 as well. Then we need to have teacher preparation. So that might be professional development. That might be self-directed professional learning. It just depends on what the focus is. Obviously, inclusive curriculum, so a curriculum for everybody, lots of open-ended curriculum as well, student-driven. Then we want to have integrated demographics, so that's a big, big picture. That's not even building level, that's a district level idea to redefine those boundaries. Then look at evaluation practices, so how are we assessing students, how are we evaluating them, are those fair and inclusive? And of course, respectful school culture. So to continue a respectful school culture, to make sure that students are being treated with respect, make sure that teachers are talking about students with respect. And lastly, creating that safe space for adult discussions about inclusion. So in my district, we've been working on a deep equity program that's mostly about racial biases, but it's really interesting to me because it applies to inclusivity for everyone. So creating those safe times and places where that can be discussed. Question 2, I said all students need a champion for sure. So what support can a principal provide to promote advocacy for students? So top, create a positive relationship. So we want to make a relationship committee. We're going to build that committee, as I said in a previous slide, to keep that positive culture going. I would set up school families. So each adult in the building will have a multi-age level group that's theirs. And they would build relationships between the adults and the students to be their champion for all students when they need it. Then I'm going to design activities. I'm not going to, but our committee is going to design activities for the school families to do. In my building, we use a lot of Leader in Me activities to kind of, sharpen the saw and make that connection on something that's not just fun. So to have some sort of motivations, self-improvement. And lastly, to involve and communicate with home families. So we have those school families, and then I also want to move into communicating with home families. What are we doing? How are we building those relationships? Question 3, what plans or strategies can be implemented to ensure the equitable treatment of staff, students in an inclusive culture? So how are we going to make sure that everybody is treated as they should be? Well, first we're going to identify those student needs. So we're going to understand that everyone reaches different levels of learning in different ways, and there is no correct way. Then we're going to create student profiles, which in Shawnee Mission we call those data folders. That's going to have what they're working on, what their wants are, and what their goals are. So kind of their strengths and weaknesses defined by the student, so not really defined by the teacher. So those are things that they can work towards. Then we're going to encourage student and staff languages. So if they don't speak English at home, that's okay. We're going to include their native language here at school. Then they're going to offer flexible learning options and environments. So that doesn't just mean flexible seating, but that also maybe means longer amounts of time. Maybe that means that they need a quieter setting. So lots of flexible options for learning. Then we're going to focus on the next steps. So great, we've created that committee of positive culture. Where are we going? What's our end goal, right? So we're going to look at the next steps for everybody, for staff and students, and our whole community. Then we're going to form those families within the school, okay, as I discussed earlier. Question 4, what steps can a school leader take to change negative assumptions that affect an inclusive culture? So I'm sure everybody's experienced negative teachers, negative staff members, people who aren't on board yet. Okay, so first, of course, have a positive mindset. So schools with negative exclusive culture, they need to be restructured. So they need to be broken down and rebuilt. So we're going to provide students with those cooperative mixed groupings, right? So the families is one way to do that. It's multi-age. It might also be, not just ability groupings, but maybe you have heterogeneous groups. Okay, you're going to ask all the stakeholders to participate in designing an inclusive school culture. So in your committee, you might not have just teachers. It's going to be staff members. It might be community members. It might be families. Then you're going to present direct instruction of social skills and include all staff members. So like I said earlier, we use a Leader in Me program. There's also responsive classroom, second step. There's lots of different choices for that direct instruction for social skills. And then you're going to maintain that high expectation for all learners. Don't lower your expectations just because you think a student can't. Think that they can and help them meet it. And then lastly, be a model. Model that inclusive behavior, language, and decision making. Okay, here's my final thought. I really liked when DeWitt was talking about the power that the staff has to set that tone. It's in their hands in order to be an inclusive building. And as a future leader, I want to create a model of inclusivity. And an inclusive school is a place where diversity and creativity are not just accepted and respected, but celebrated. So I really enjoyed that. Okay, here are my standards. And I really am excited to start this class and excited to meet everybody here in my citation. Okay, hope to see you all soon.